halfway through West Coast Conference play, brothers, and the Cougars are 5-2. Tough loss to Pepperdine, a bad loss, I think we'd all consider, and then a squeaking out a double overtime win against Damon Stoudemire and Pacific. At this point, besides the Gonzaga game, would I want another loss, or would I expect another loss through 7 games? Probably, considering St. Mary's and San Francisco were all in the game. We're all close. It seemed like we were just playing with fire too much with these close games. Brian, the Pepperdine game, let's talk about the loss first. What did you think? Why did that game turn out the way it did, in the sense that was different than the St. Mary's and the San Francisco games where we were able to pull out close wins?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was an early afternoon game.
Right.
Maybe that had something to do with it. It was just played a lot earlier than normal. But yeah, we struggled, and Barcelo has been in a slump until the Pacific game, where he broke out of it, thankfully. But he's been the one guy that you could really count on most of the time, and he really struggled in that game, and so did everybody else. So it was like you said, I would have expected our record to be 5-2 at this point, but I just wouldn't have expected the other loss to come against this Pepperdine team. But yeah, not a good victory, not a good loss. Offensively, we just couldn't get it going. I mean, we just could not get it going, and there was no one there to bail us out in that game.
Well, what was disappointing too is it seemed like in the second half, I always thought the whole second half we were going to win. That's what was disappointing, because it kept thinking we were going to turn it on and kind of put them away, and we never could. It seemed like whenever we get stops, we couldn't convert, and then down the stretch, we couldn't keep them off the free throw line in the second half too, as well.
And by the way, Brett, that's what's been, to me, most impressive about this team, is that we have found a way to win those type of games, even when we weren't. This team's been really pretty remarkable in that we don't have a ton of consistent stars that are game in and game out, but we've been able to find a way to win all of these tough games. And so, yeah, you were kind of expecting that BYU was going to pull this one out, because we've been doing it regularly. Again, I attribute a lot of that to Pope and the coaching, but we just couldn't do it this time.
Yeah, I wonder too if that's what we talked about before, which just in Pope's defense, it's kind of been because no one's really separated themselves. But I wonder if that loss too is kind of an indictment on our, not lack of depth, because we can play 9 or 10 different guys, but just our lack of solidifying who our final 5 guys are. The last 5. We talked about this, a month ago, going into conference play. It's such an advantage that NBA, college, high school, I don't care. The last 5 minutes of the game, you just know who your 5 guys are going to be. And, we don't have that. Sometimes we're 2 bigs. Sometimes it's loner, sometimes harder. And then with that third guard spot to go with Averett and Porcello, so I just think that lack, it's like we have reverse depth issues. We have 9 or 10 guys we could play. We just don't have a final 5. I don't think we know who our 5 guys is. And I think what Pope does is what anyone does when you don't know who that is. And that's, you just play the hot hand. So if it's Johnson or Harding, we saw those guys played a lot more Saturday. And Neil only played 9 minutes. Nell only played 9 minutes, and then the time before it's him. Harms, came back in second overtime yesterday, and it sat out, the end of regulation and first overtime. So even with the bigs, with Turner and Harward, we switched in and out. Loner was playing the end of regulation, and then it went back to Harward. So even with our bigs between Harward and Loner, we don't know who the two of those three are going to be. So and we talked about this, Greg, a month ago. What are we going to do? And I guess,
well, I don't know. I mean,
no one stepped up.
When they interviewed Pope a few weeks ago, they asked him about this also, and he said that he was actually going to be increasing, possibly the participation. They're talking about, when are you going to narrow down to your 8? Right? Because that's a standard number, right, for the coach and for your rotation. And he said, no, I think we're actually going to be increasing it. And I think he was talking about Lowell also there before Lowell went down.
Right.
Because they wanted to bring him in.
Yeah, imagine if we had him and Baxter. I mean,
that's a big deal, right? Those are very likely, honestly, those are likely 2 starters, right? Baxter was the starter coming in. Lowell probably would have taken Lee's spot, almost for sure. He would have been the other starter. So, we are down 2 starters. That's a big deal. But, the other thing is that I see is it's not, I don't think it's so much nailing down your 8. I think it's, I don't know that we have the 5 even, I don't know. I think he's settled down on at least 4 of the 5, but I don't know that we have the players that we know can carry a game on their backs, or that can come down, like you're saying, in the last 3 or 4 minutes, and they're going to perform at their highest level like we need them to. And I don't know that we have anybody besides Barcelo. Averett, here and there, but I don't think there's anybody else. I mean, who do you want on the floor outside of Barcelo and maybe Harms for his height? Who do you want on the floor in the last 3 minutes in a game that's you're within 4 points?
Well, I'd like to see, honestly, I'd like to see Spencer Johnson start. I think he deserves a chance. He's a very good shooter, but he's also a very good defender. And I think I'd like to see him be that, that other guy that gets a shot to consistently prove himself. I know he's been getting, more minutes regardless. But I think he could be really solid at that, that 3 spot for us.
He's up to 18 minutes a game. He hardly had any starting off. So he seems to be averaging in the 20s, probably mid 20s the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. So he's getting a lot of playing time. He's not up into the 30 range that you might find a Barcelo, but I think he doubled the time that Nell had in the last game.
Yeah. So he's definitely getting more minutes. I think I'd like to see him in the starting rotation.
Well, if you go by minutes, I mean, Barcelo obviously his averages about 32 minutes, and then next is Averett with 27, and then Loner's at 20, Harms at 22, Harding at 22. So, a lot of guys in that, 15 to 22 range there. But as far as the game Saturday, obviously Averett was huge. I mean, we saw 5 3-pointers, at 24 points, played 44 of the 50 minutes. And it looked like too, he did a great job on defense as well. And it seems like he's going to be there, with Barcelo. It's who's the third guy. And I don't mind if going back to like Greg said about who our 8-man rotation is. It's not so much that, but going back to who are our 5 guys to finish a game. I don't mind if it's 4, like but I want to know who the 4 are, and then the 5th can be okay. Are we going to go big?
Yeah,
and go with
defensive
with
possession, offensive possession.
Yeah, if we're going to go offense, defense, that's fine.
Yeah.
We go off. There's so much stop clock in college basketball. We can go, 2 bigs or, but who's going to be our third? Who's going to be our third wing? And who's if it's so going small or going big, that's fine. But we need to know who our 4 of the 5 are, and we just don't. I thought. Going back to the Pacific game, we really lucked out too. They missed a lot of free throws, and that helped us a lot. And then of course we missed those at the end with Lohner and Harward. But I thought the play that we ran to get Barcelo the bucket down 2 was huge. The little entry to Everett to hand off. So again, great execution. We always have good sets coming out of timeouts. We always are it seems like we have options and counters off of everything. We're very well coached schematically, and our defense is a lot better. I mean, that's why we won the San Francisco, and going back to San Francisco and St. Mary's, that's how we won those games was playing defense. Is this a tournament team? Are we a tournament team?
Yeah, well, we asked this. I asked you guys this a month ago, right? So we've gone a month now, and our I think our consensus was that Pope is a great coach, and he's going to get these guys to gel, and we're just going to get better, right? We had seen some good games; they had looked pretty good. I think we look not as good as we did a month ago at this point. And a lot of people, you hear a lot of the announcers and others, analysts talk about how the WCC looks a lot better this year. I think it's really hard to tell because so many of them have played hardly any basketball. There's hardly been any games. But I don't know. I don't see. And the other thing is since then, you have who looked like a superstar, Barcelo. I don't think it's just that he fell into a slump. It looks to me like Pope had him move his role. Look, there was a couple weeks there where he was hardly shooting anything. And I know that the teams are going to key in on him when you're shooting 60% and you're scoring 21 points a game. But there were a couple weeks there where he was throwing up maybe 5 or 6 shots. And one game there, I think he didn't even score.
Well,
in that run. So maybe it's a slump, but maybe it seems to me like maybe Pope is trying to arrange something there. He's trying to get more people involved.
That could be true, but he definitely has fallen off. I mean, his outside shot he's really been struggling.
Yeah, 2 air balls from the corner, I noticed.
Even this game against Pacific, he scored what was it, Brett? 23 points.
Yeah.
He had a very good game, but I don't think he had 1-3. He has not found his outside shot in quite a while now. So whereas he started off the year blistering, right? He was shooting, 60% from 3-point range, and about 60% overall. But even in that game against Pacific, he was driving to the basket to get his points. He did not shoot the ball from the outside. So he's got to find. He's the best shooter on the team, and he has to find his shot again for this team to be successful, or they're going to be in big trouble.
Brian, I see that he's 1 for 7 in the last 2 games.
Yeah,
3.
Well, how about this?
Even farther than that, he's been struggling for the last 4 games.
Yeah.
How about this? How about this stat? Barcelo has 178 field goal attempts on the year. Averett 173. I mean that, and then 3-point attempts on the year. Barcelo, he's shot 71, made 34. So 71 3-point attempts. Averett 80. So
what's the percentage? What's Averett's percentage? And Barcelo's still over 50, right?
Yeah, he's 48%, and
48.
Averett's 36.
Yeah.
and Barcelo's still over. He's 52% from the field, and Averett's 44. So again, Ido, they're keen on him. And he has to guard, good wings and. But
hopefully with that Pepperdine game, he's gotten his mojo back a little bit,
Yeah.
He had a good, even though he didn't hit outside shots, he still scored 23 points and was obviously a key factor in that game.
Another thing is without Lowell, because Lowell makes a difference because he's also an outside shooter and a jump shotter. He can go outside on guys and stretch them, but we don't have that with Harward. We don't have that with Harms. We don't have that with Lowell, or not Lowell, Lohner. We don't have any guys on the inside that can go inside outside. They're just not. Outside of Lohner, you've got Harward and Harms. They're good players. But they're very much like an old school, tall, big body.
Back to the basket.
Did you not see
with no athleticism? They don't have any athleticism.
Did you not see Colby Lee stroke a 3 the other day?
That's the problem. We have 4 bigs. You got Lee, Harms, Harwick, and Lohner, and it's 4 for 2. You can't play 3 of them together, so it's 4 for 2 spots, and then obviously, so you got 4 for 2 spots with the bigs. And then obviously Averett and Barcelo are going to take up a lot of minutes. So for the third wing spot, you got Neal, Johnson, and Harding. It's 3 for 1. Is kind of what it comes down to.
Well, that's a good problem, though. That's usually a good problem. The reason you keep saying we have 3 for 1 is because no one's stepping up.
But for college basketball, I really think it's. Depth is a good thing until you have to use it. Unless this is the 96 Kentucky Wildcats, you're going 5-5 with, 8 NBA guys. I'd rather just have, 6 or 7 guys that are your 6 or 7 and have a lack of depth than have, 9 or 10 guys, but then, not know who 3, 4, and 5 are. And this musical chairs, I think it's going to, in a tournament game, it's going to hurt us like it did against. Any team we play, like right now, and let's look ahead. this week we have San Diego and Portland. They're both struggling. I mean, there are road games, but we should go 2-0 this week. But looking ahead with the tournament, right now Lenardi has us as a 9th seed. We went from being first 4 out to having a first four buys to playing a play-in game and the 11th seed to now being, pretty much secure at the 9th as a 9th seed. Any team we play, whether it's the 8-9 game or the 7-10 game or even, 11-6, 12-5, it's going to be better than every team in our conference besides Gonzaga. Any first round game we have, it is, even if it's an 8-9 game, they're going to be maybe even, solidly better than any team we've played in our conference. So I'm worried because as much as we've improved defensively, I don't know where our points are going to come from. And the matchup too could scare us, especially if we have someone that can match our height while at the same time being really athletic. But I did want to say, going to the WCC conference tournament, I thought Mark Few really made a good point. If you're coming from it from BYU standpoint, where why have the tournament? Why risk? He said, what are you going to look at? Are you going to look at just not messing with BYU and Gonzaga and risking their tournament chances by having something go wrong in the tournament with illness? Because if you get sick during the conference tournament next week, you're in March Madness, or, why risk that tournament just so, these other teams can have a shot at winning the tournament and go and make it in. So I think it's in our best interest. I think it's in our best interest that there is no WCC tournament. I think it can only hurt us. I don't think winning 2 games or winning 1 game, right, because we advanced to the semis with the buys, and then getting blown out by Gonzaga again, I think it can only kind of keep us neutral. So I hope Mark Few's point, you could tell, was very indirectly direct. Like, why ruin it for us in BYU? And he did. He stopped for BYU by saying, well, it depends what they prioritize. Are they gonna prioritize the two teams that are already in the tournament? Because obviously he's there, stomping for BYU, saying we're a tournament team. So
yeah,
I hope that's the case.
No, I agree. I think it would be in our best interest that we don't play in the tournament, no question. And to your point, Brett, just going back, this team is a very good defensive team, and I think that's the one good thing that we have going for us. But you have to be able to shoot the 3-pointer in college basketball. And that's what I'm worried about right now is we're not as good a 3-point shooting team as I thought we would be lately, at least. So I'm hoping we can gain that back, because if we can't hit the 3, we have no chance of winning a tournament game. Because we just don't have the athleticism. Like you said, if we're a 9 seed, we're going to play a very athletic team, like we always do, right? And we just don't match up well with athletic teams. And if we can't hit the 3, we just don't have a chance.
Well, it's a great point, because these games we're winning against, like the St. Mary's and San Francisco game, against arguably the third and fourth best team in our conference, we're not going to be able to do that in the tournament. We can't grind out a win against a mid-tier Power 5 team. We're not going to be able to do that. Like you said, we've got to hit 7 to 8 threes, to win that game. And that's not our game. And the defensive grind it out has helped us in WCC because of our talent. It's better than everybody save, the Zags. And in the tournament, we're trouble. We're in trouble. We saw it against SC. I think that's the type of team we're going to play in the tournament.
Well, even at Boise State, I mean,
but we couldn't guard their guards.
No, we couldn't.
We did come back into it, but that was a game. As much as we're improved upon defensively, we could not keep them out of the paint on penetration.
Aren't we a little bit? I mean, I know that Barcelo and Averett, they can drive and they can make the layup, right? But they're not like going to come in and overpower anybody, right? They're not going to come in and throw it down against anybody, right? So can't you look at it like this? Our guards are very one-dimensional, right? I mean, they're outside shoot. They're going to get almost all their points from a few drive-in layups and 3-point shots. Typically, Barcelo's been able to move that around a little bit, but it's like, what I'm saying is how do you guard them, right? How are you going to guard our guards? To me, it doesn't seem like it's that difficult. I don't know. You're going to come out on them almost always. You're going to come out on them as much as you can, and then our bigs are one-dimensional, right? There's nobody. You're not clearing out anything down low with our bigs that are going to go out and stretch anybody out anywhere.
Yeah. With the exception of Lohner, Harwood, Harms.
Yeah, well, all back to the basket. You're back behind the guys that have their backs to the basket. That's all you've got. So you've got one-dimensional bigs and maybe 1.5-dimensional guards. It seems to me.
Well, and they're going to do what SC does any tournament. With our ball screen continuity offense, they're gonna double Barcelo on the ball screen and make him give it up. And I'm sure they are, and maybe not just switch or show, like they'll just flat out double and make him give it up and make those other guys beat you and make you throw it into the post. I mean, right now, statistically, throwing it to the post analytically isn't a great offense right now in basketball. So like you said, and those guys are all back to the basket players.
Barcelo is going to have a big game for us to win in the tournament.
No question.
And so, like Brett was saying, if they take him out of the game, we won't win. we won't win a tournament game. He's going to have a big scoring night for us to win.
So what you're saying is we don't have anybody else.
I don't. Not against a good team. I don't think so.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
yeah,
you don't have anybody else. I mean, we had three big time options last year, right? That could carry a team. Right. We have one this year.
Right. But I would say as far as a creator, you saw, both St. Mary's games, you saw anytime the last 5 minutes. I mean, we really, really went to Haas. I mean, it was Haas and a ball screen. Mm-hmm. And yes, Toulson shot. Yes, Yoli got it, high post or at the wing, but we always went to Haas. Not just when he made those game winners or go ahead baskets, just the last 8 minutes. I mean, we ran the same action to get him the ball where he either, shot, drove, created, but, and Barcelo is very good, but, Haas just had more help. And then obviously, and he was a little bit, better at that stuff.
Yeah, so, to your point, Greg, or just to add to that, yeah, if Barcelo gets shut down, our other guards would have to have, big 3-point, nights from, if they're shutting him down, our other guys would just have to be, out of their minds for us to win. I mean, and
I think that's right. I mean, at least I guess it's a win just to get to the tournament. We haven't been there since, what is it, 2015? Maybe since we've been to the tournament.
No,
it's been a while.
13 or 14 when we made that comeback against Iona.
I think it's 2015. I don't think we've been for 6 years. Maybe longer.
Yeah.
And that includes the teams with that had Haas and Yoli before last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad because I mean, obviously last year we probably would have been a 5th or a 6th seed. So I mean, that's kind of
last year was our shot.
We were in last year. Yeah. So I mean.
We probably for sure had a first round win, at least. All right, so here, are we better than we were a month ago? Have we gelled?
Well, certainly, I thought after the St. Mary's and San Francisco game, even though we won those games, I still didn't feel like we played well. Like, and even this, I mean, both games we were losing at half, and so we were gritty, grit, coming back, but it's kind of ugly game, and we pulled it out, and so I guess my answer would be no, and I'm worried because I think there's, we'll lose to Gonzaga again, and then we still have St. Mary's and Santa Clara. LMU has some dudes, so I'm worried we could lose. If we lose 3 times in the last 8 games, we're in trouble. We're in trouble with that committee. So I don't think we are. I don't think we looked good this week, and so right now it's I'm definitely more pessimistic than I was a month ago.
I am. I know it's a bad week, and you're coming off a bad week, and things can change all of a sudden next week. But just on the overall month, I expected us to be a little further along at this point.
Yeah, what's crazy too is that we're taking 5-2.
I don't think that we're any better, but I still have some optimism for this team. They have shown just the ability, like I said earlier, to pull games out, to win tough games, find a way to win. And so that tells you a lot about the heart of the team. Even though we haven't seen them play as well as we'd like, they've found a way to win, except for that Pepperdine game, right? So I still think they're a tournament team, and we'll see how we play here in the second half, and that'll determine whether I think we can win a game in the tournament or not. But I would say right now we still are a tournament team, but I don't see us winning a game in the tournament.
Well, we definitely. I say that, but I would have taken 5-2 this month. So at this point I would have taken 5-2, and so I think 2.5 losses would have been the over under by now, and so I'm happy with the record. I am happy that we defend, because that'll keep us in every game. I don't know if we have enough scoring to really show that we're better than we are right now. But like you said, we still have, there is a whole nother month left. So
Wilson, what's happening with Zach Wilson? I saw he bought a Maserati.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I know his agency put him up in a very nice home in Irvine.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where he's working out.
Yeah.
It's working out with Beck, I assume, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been listening to a lot of draft prep and a lot of draft analysis reviews. Obviously, what's the unknown with the draft? Not only what are these teams actually going to do, but trades. It's so hard to predict. But where people have him now of note, I think it's Kuiper and McShay both have him as the second quarterback. With one has him going to Atlanta fourth. So Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network, he's their draft guru. He has him going number 2 to the Jets. And he's the one guy, the other experts that have him over, they say, it's close, but, nudge goes to Wilson. Daniel Jeremiah is the one guy that just says he's just better. Wilson's just more skilled right now. And what I really like about Jeremiah is he put down clips of Wilson's incomplete passes, which we all know there was some very, very impressive incomplete passes that he threw.
Mm-hmm.
And so which is great, as they watch all of his passes, and that's something that he saw. Like that some of the balls he threw, that he was throwing guys open that were tough catches, but just showed his arm strength or his accuracy and giving that receiver the chance, which in the NFL you have to do. For me personally, I don't hate the Jets, because I think their GM is very, very competent and they have a lot of cap room. I like their new coach. So I don't think it would be a dumpster fire if he got sent there. And plus the Jets' new offensive coordinator is Matt LaFleur's the guy from Green Bay's head coach, his younger brother, who was the passing game coordinator in San Francisco. And so he was under Shanahan, running that Shanahan, zone offense. I think that fits Zach very, very well. And that's something that he would really work schematically with. But number 4, Atlanta, is Arthur Smith, the Tennessee offensive coordinator. I think he's great for him, and I like him too with the Panthers. So and obviously San Francisco, other teams could trade up, but I really don't. Anywhere he's projected to go right now, I see as all could be very positive situations.
Is there any way he falls out of the top 5?
Yes, he could fall out of the top 5 because Fields could go before him. Fields could go before him. If Fields goes before, he could drop down to Carolina at 8.
I believe that it all depends on what the Jets GM and coach think of Darnold. And Brett made the point that they're running Shanahan's offense. I think Zach goes number 2. I don't think they're sold on Darnold, and I think that he's going to go number 2 to the Jets.
Is that where you want him to go? Where do you want him to go?
Yeah, no. I want him to go to San Francisco. With the way their franchise has been, and it's going to take a while for them to get back. Even if they have coaching and a good GM, so it's not ideal for him to go there. Obviously, I'd much rather see him go number 4 to Atlanta.
Yeah, sit behind Ryan.
And sit behind Ryan, a very good NFL quarterback that he could learn from, for a year or 2, probably 1, I would say probably a year. I think that would be more ideal for Zach, but I don't think they're sold on Darnold in New York, and they need a quarterback. And unless they make a trade, I think they'll take Zach. Zach had the best. I saw a statistic the other day. They said that he had the most NFL throws throughout the season. I can't remember exactly how they measured that, but they were saying that he made the most NFL throws than any other quarterback in college football this year. And not only does he have the accuracy, which we've talked about a lot, but what McShay and other draft analysts are saying when they review the film of Zach versus Fields is that Zach makes quicker decisions. And so when you have a quarterback that makes quick decisions and has the accuracy and the arm strength that Zach does, I don't see him falling out. And I really do believe he's going to be the second quarterback taken. And I think it'll either be Jets at number 2 or Atlanta at number 4.
We've got CBS Sports here. They came out with theirs. They've got Atlanta trading up to 2 and taking Wilson.
Well, I think too.
But they've got Fields going 3rd with Detroit.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what Detroit does now.
That could change after the Goff trade.
Goff trade.
This just came out yesterday.
Well, they traded for him last night. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, to Detroit, I don't think it's impossible. Like I even heard tonight, like if they really like Wilson or they really like Fields, Detroit could still take them. Because they could still same thing. So they could sit behind Goff for a year or 2. If you really feel like that's the guy, you get the guy. I think Brian too. The other thing that I think makes him the second quarterback off the board is I think, albeit the interviews are via Zoom, I think the interviews in his pro day, which I know they don't have the combine, but I think his pro day at BYU and then the interviews, I think obviously this is, maybe being a homer, but I think he's going to crush the interviews. He's 24/7 football. Not that Fields isn't, but I think he's just very smart because the knock on Fields is that he hones in on one read and he's late to his second read.
Yep.
And I think that's not just a physical attribute. That's mental, and that's not to see Fields can't get there. That's actually smart. I'm just saying he does that because he's mentally ahead, so I think he's going to show that. I think he's going to do very, very well in the interviews. And when you're taking a quarterback in the top 5, you want a guy that doesn't just really, really like it. Like you want a guy that's Brady-esque in the sense that he just, it's family than football. He's 24/7, that he's all about it. And I think his pro day too will be big, but I also think with the Jets, they've seen Darnold for 3 years. I mean, the Bills quarterback, Josh Allen, I was going to say Josh Kelly because of Jim Kelly. Josh Allen, now there are exceptions of a guy that made a big leap, but that was after 2 years. Usually if the guy doesn't make the leap in this year 2, it's in trouble. And then this year, Allen and Mayfield too got better with, more talent and a better coach and things like that. But, Darnold's now had 3 years. I just think that's tough. New coach and your GM to go with a guy that has already shown 3 years. Selfishly with the Jets, what would be nice is you get to see him play right away. Unfortunately, Greg, I would love to see him go to San Francisco too. That'd be a dream. I just don't think Shanahan, now that the Rams have Stafford, their goal is to win it next year, to beat the Rams and the Packers and to win the NFC West, to win the NFC. He's not going to want to start over with the rookie quarterback. So I would be surprised if Shanahan traded for him, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I don't mind Carolina either. I like Matt Rule, the guy from Baylor. I think he's got a good thing going, and Bridgewater's still there. He can sit behind Bridgewater, but it's not threatening. And they have a lot of cap room. They have a really good owner with Tepper who, wants to win, and a new GM in place too. So I think they're built for success. And the good thing too is, that's not a bad division to be in too, with the NFC South with there's no dominant team with the Bucks, having Brady coming back. No.
Sam Darnold, born in Dana Point, played at San Clemente.
Yeah, just like Isaac Rex.
Yeah,
that's right.
But it'll be exciting. I mean, it's what McMahon went 6th to the Bears. I mean, that's, like you said, Young would have been taken very high too. But I mean, this is a long time coming. I mean, we haven't had a quarterback. I mean, Doman got drafted late by the 49ers. Beck early first round or early second round.
Yeah.
This is a long time coming. This is big
time. This is big time. This is
big.
And who would have thought this a year ago?
Oh, yeah.
Sophomore slump. You had a sophomore.
If you would have told me last year we had a quarterback being drafted in the first round, I would have thought it was Hall going baseball.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing that I read today on ESPN concerning the Jets and their likelihood of picking Wilson is the only real knock that they had on Wilson is the injuries.
Right.
Having the shoulder surgery, and then last year with the hand But
the flip side of that is that also showed the flip side of that is the pro argument to that is, well, look, why the big jump? Well, the sophomore year wasn't healthy. He wasn't 100%. Look what he's 100%.
Coming off this.
And
surgeries.
The thing with the Jets too, the last point I'll make on it, I think smart people say, which I think too makes the most sense, is if the Jets keep Darnold, they'll trade the pick. So whoever wants him, I think we'll know what I think we'll know what the Jets are doing by if they're keeping that pick or not. If they're keeping that pick, they're going with a quarterback. If they're keeping Darnold, I don't see why they would, unless they really want, the Sewell or Devonta Smith.
Wilson's going to be worth so much more than either of those guys, isn't he? If someone really wants him and they want him ahead of Fields.
Yeah, that's just like what the Bears did.
You're going to trade.
That's why the Bears.
That's why somebody else.
That's why the Bears a couple of years ago. That's why the Bears traded up to number 2 to get Trubisky. Yeah. They just had to. If you got to get your guy, you can't be their back. So if Carolina really wants him, they'll trade to number 2. If Atlanta really wants him, they'll trade to number 2. And don't count out John Elway. You could maybe trade Drew Lock and trade up. Like I said, the Vikings could trade Cousins to San Fran because Shanahan loves Cousins, draft him, and the Vikings could move up. I mean, you just never, the Patriots never move up in the draft, but they could, anybody who needs a quarterback is going to move up, because if you don't have a quarterback in the NFL, that's why this Deshaun Watson thing is such a big deal, because they have a top 5, top 6 quarterback. If you have one, it's like they're trading them. It's like that's the whole point of what that's the the absolute gold in the draft.
Right. That's what
why would
everybody
you trade
wants.
him?
That's what
That's what
everybody
everybody
needs.
wants. That's what
Yeah.
everybody needs to compete. And so
Super Bowl, who
it'll be
wins?
Fun.
And who are you rooting for?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Tom Brady is going to add another Super Bowl to his legacy. I just that's who I'm betting on. I think, and if he does that, that would be unbelievable.
Are you rooting for Brady or are you rooting for the Chiefs?
I'm rooting.
Because I know you're not rooting for the Bucks. You're just rooting for Brady. You're either rooting for Brady or you're.
No, I'm not I mean, I love Brady because he's great, but I've never been a Patriots fan, and I'm never, I would rather see the Chiefs win. I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but I just can't count out Brady.
Who are you rooting for, Greg?
It's tough. For me, I'm rooting for Brady and I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I don't care about the Buccaneers. There's just something to say about a guy is he 42, 43 now? How old?
43.
Yeah.
43 years old to go out and against the odds. I mean, yeah, they grabbed a bunch of players this year, but still against the odds to come back and get to the Super Bowl.
Well, I was telling my boys today, because we were talking about standards, and I was telling them about Tom Brady and what he's brought to that team and that organization. He has very high standards for himself and everybody around him. And that's what he's done. And that's why they're in the Super Bowl, is because he's got such high standards for himself and for anybody that plays with him. And he's just elevated that whole team. And, Arians even said that it's a completely different feeling. And you have a guy in the locker room that demands your best every day. And that's what sets him apart. It's obviously he's talented, but it's his mindset. It's his standards that he lives up to on a daily basis. And the guy is flat out a winner. And that's why. He can
sling it still too. I mean, he's
no question.
43.
Yeah. He
always looked 43 when he was trying to scramble, even when he started in the NFL. But
that throw he made at the end of the first half to Scotty Miller, I mean, that was an all-time throw. I mean, that was great. And I'm rooting for Brady. It was hard when he was on the Patriots just because but always, obviously, I won't be upset if the Chiefs win, with Reid getting back to back, and obviously Mahomes is fun to watch. I'd have a lot harder time. I'd be more torn if the Chiefs if Andy hadn't won one, because he would still kind of have that reputation as the great coach, but hasn't won the big one. But now that he's won one, he's got Mahomes for a long time, so I think we'll get more. I'm with you. I pull for Brady. I find myself pulling for Brady. I think it's phenomenal. And there's just something about too. Him going in there and then 52 other guys in the locker room just automatically believing now they can win. Like I just back that. I back that he has that aura, that he goes in and, like someone even says, when he comes there, the front office works harder. The assistant coaches work harder because they know in meetings they got to be better. Like, even though they work hard, they got to be better. They could even say, like, the landscaping crew, the landscaping crew at the field, they do better. Like, he just elevates everything, like Brian was saying. But I think most importantly in the locker room, like, he threw picks in the second half, like, and people were saying some of that stuff. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, it's this team was 7-9 last year. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2003. And he goes there, and everybody, there's just something about it, as we know from teams, that just believing, because we have this dude, we can win. And you saw it when they celebrated the NFC Championship game after he handed the trophy to Arians and went back. They all love him because he's the ultimate leader, the ultimate teammate. And I hope he gets it done. I mean, gun to head, Chiefs, but I will say the fact that it's -3, that tells you something, because you would think the Chiefs would be favored by 4.5 to 6, and that's -3. I mean, this game's close, and Chiefs both starting tackles out. Eric Fisher hurt his Achilles, and their other tackles hurt. You saw those DNs for Tampa get pressure on Rodgers. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul. So I mean, they can if they can get to Mahomes a little bit. I mean, keep them up, and I think it's an advantage too that they already played them. So I'm excited though. Great game.
It'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. A lot of hype.
He looks like he's 28 years old this year. Really, I mean, that's his performance on the field has been, for someone 28 years old to sling it like he is, it's unbelievable.
What's the highest average of pass completion and percentage that he's had, or highest yards per pass that he's ever had per completion? 40 touchdowns. And
I heard a rumor he's coming back next year too.
He says he wants to. That would be the only thing. If he won it, that would be hard. That would be hard to not go out. But he'll come back. I mean, I think he'll come back. He loves it.
Yep. All right, guys.